Alright, let's go ahead and solve nth highest salary on LeetCode now. In this problem, we're given a table that has the columns ID and salary, and we need to write a solution to find the nth highest distinct salary from the employees table. If there are less than n distinct salaries, then we need to return null. So in example 1, we have these IDs and these salaries. With n equals to 2, that means they want us to return the second highest salary, which in this case is ID 2 with a salary of 200, and so that's what we return. Now this problem is a bit unique from all the other problems that we've solved on SQL so far on this channel. Opposed to other problems, in this one we actually have to create a function that returns the nth highest salary, and we've actually never written a function in SQL before. So it might seem a bit scary right now, but we're going to explain it step by step. I'm going to try to make it sound as easy as possible because it is an easy problem. So there's no need to worry, and let's get started. Oh, and before we begin, do you need help bringing a digital idea to life? From designing to developing a website or an application, look no further than Evolve Consulting. We work fast, we're affordable, and we even offer free consultations. We'll get your app running in no time. So what are you waiting for? Reach us on LinkedIn or through any of the contacts on the screen. Alright, now let's get back to the video. So before we begin coding, let's quickly go through the syntax of this, or what's given in this problem. So create function will obviously create a function which we're going to write in to return the nth highest salary. Now the name of this function is get nth highest salary, and it expects an integer input n, where n obviously is going to be any integer number. And what our function is going to return is an int, which is going to be the nth highest salary. Now begin just states where our code actually going to be written, and obviously end is where it's going to end, and within the return statement is where we write our query. So how actually are we going to solve this? Well, just like any other SQL problem, we first start by seeing what they want us to return. And in this case, they want us to return salaries, but to be more specific, they want us to return distinct salary, and that makes a huge difference. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to return distinct salary from our employee table. So let's go ahead and write that down. Alright, so now let's go ahead and consider how we're going to solve this. So obviously we're given the employee table, ID, and salary, and currently with our code, what we're going to return is the entire column of distinct salaries from our salary column in our employee table. And right now would be a pretty good time to explain why we're returning distinct salaries. Let's say in our table we had duplicates, so for example 100, 100, 200, and then 300, and they want us to return the second highest salary. Since we have two 100s, they're going to basically compromise our solution. It's going to return the wrong output because obviously the second highest salary between 100, 200, and 300 is 200. And so when we return the distinct salaries, we're only going to return 100, 200, and 300. And that would be a fair comparison between all the salaries. So actually the next step in this solution is to order by, or order our salaries in descending order. So we're gonna have the highest salary at the top, and the salaries below it are going to gradually decrease. So in example 1, we'd have 300 at the top, and then 200, and then 100. Now let's say they want us to return the highest salary, then we're just gonna return the top row. The second highest salary will be the second row, the third highest salary would be the third row, and so on. So let's go ahead and write that down as well. So now up until this point, we're going to return the salary column in descending order, and of course the distinct salary values in our employee table. But remember, we want to return the nth highest salary, which means only one value. And to do that, we have to use the limit statement in SQL to limit our return to one row only. And so let's write that down. But now by this point, we return only the highest salary in our employee table because our limit is 1, and based on our code, we're sorting the salaries from the largest to lowest, and after we limit by 1, we're only returning the first row. So how do we make sure we return the nth highest salary? That's where the offset statement in SQL comes in handy. Now what offset does is it allows us to skip a certain number of rows. So for example, limit 1 with an offset of 0. So there's no offset, we're just going to return the first row. But for example, offset of 1, limit 1, offset 1, that's going to skip the first row because of our offset. And now our first row is basically going to be the second row. So if we want to return the second highest value, we'd have an offset of 1. If we wanted to return the third highest salary, we'd have an offset of 2, because an offset of 1 would skip the first row, an offset of 2 would skip the second row, leaving us with the third row, which is the third highest. Now remember, in our function, they gave us an input n, which means the nth highest salary. And so we're going to use n to return the nth highest salary. And that's what we're going to use in our offset. But remember, if we want the second highest salary, then we need to have an offset of 1. And therefore, if n is equal to 2, then we have to have an offset of 2 minus 1. And so basically, what our offset is going to be is an offset of n minus 1, and then we can submit our code. Now, one more thing I want to address before we finalize up this code and submit is the fact that, like I said, we need to limit 1 and then offset by n minus 1. But if we write that in one sentence on LeetCode on MySQL, it's going to create a runtime error. And so to address this, very simply, right after the begin statement, we're going to create a variable n, which is going to be equal to n minus 1. And then in our offset statement, we're just going to offset by n and not n minus 1. So let's go ahead and finalize this code now. Awesome. So there we go. So that was the nth highest salary problem on LeetCode. I hope you found that video helpful, and thanks for watching.